Hey everyone, Dr. Yaz, triple board certified endocrinologist and obesity specialist. And today we're diving into the unconscious ways that you're resisting weight loss, or basically why you're not losing weight even when you exercise and diet. Hi friends, welcome back to the Vitality Prescription. I'm glad you're joining me today as we dive into a topic that you may be struggling with. So you may be wondering why you're not losing weight even though you're sticking to your exercise and diet plans. And it's frustrating because you're putting in all this effort and you're not seeing the results you're aiming for. So in this episode, we're going to explore the unconscious ways you may be resisting weight loss and provide some actionable advice so you can overcome these obstacles. So let's get started. So I decided to come up with this episode today because I get this from my patients all the time. My patients and my clients, they all come up to me and say, I'm doing all the things, I'm exercising every day, I'm following, maybe this plant-based diet or specific diet, and it's not coming off. And then if I have one wrong meal, it's 3 pounds on the scale. And I used to go through the same thing. I used to really be very frustrated that if I did one little thing wrong, I felt the whole thing was messed up. And it's because I was focusing on the wrong things. I was so hyper focusing on the food, the calories, that if that went off, I felt that was the reason, right? Even though it didn't make sense, right? There was other things at play. So if you haven't watched my intuitive eating episode, go check that out because I want some people to focus on that rather than the calories if they feel calories are the issue, because odds are it's something else, okay? So what I want to talk about is first, understanding the disconnect between the results you're getting and why your exercise and diet plan aren't working. So it's common to follow a structured exercise and diet plan and still feel like you're not making progress. And this is very discouraging. However, the issue may not be actually the plan itself, but rather the unconscious factors that are sabotaging your efforts. So these that I want to talk about today, there's a ton of them. But I think the most common ones I see are emotional eating, self-sabotage, and inadequate sleep. Okay, so we're going to go through those 3 today. So understand these. This will definitely help you make your efforts more effective. So let's talk about the first one, emotional eating and stress. So first, when we talk about emotional eating, many of us use food as a way to kind of cope with stress, boredom, emotional discomfort. And boredom is a true emotion, okay? I think a lot of people think, no, I'm not emotional eating because I'm not upset eating or I'm not stress eating, right? But boredom is an absolute emotion. So if you're bored, I'm going to start with this one. Find out why you're bored and get unbored. Get busy. I think for me, this was a big one, particularly right after I had kids. Even though you're doing stuff and you're busy the whole time and you love your children, you can absolutely get bored at home, right? In the beginning, you are home, especially if it's winter and with a newborn. So I do want you to focus on things like that. There's so much research showing that emotional eating absolutely is a significant barrier to weight management. So, and there's a lot of studies out there, but one, and I'll link below in the show notes, show that emotional eating is linked with increased calorie intake and difficulty losing weight. Okay. And when you're stressed or you're upset, you may reach for comfort foods, which leads to consuming more calories than needed. But honestly, a lot of times it's just that we're bored. So the biggest thing you have to do, right, to get out of emotional eating is understanding or basically practicing mindfulness when it comes to being more aware of your eating triggers and emotions. So mindful eating involves paying full attention to the eating experience and recognizing hunger and fullness cues. If you do this, this will get you out of that emotional cycle, okay? Studies show being mindful can reduce emotional eating and improve weight management because if you're focused on your hunger and you're satisfied cues, and we talk about this in the intuitive eating episode, you absolutely, even if you are kind of emotionally going through something, will stop eating earlier or eat only when you're hungry. Now, say that doesn't happen, we really need to focus on understanding where the emotion's coming from. So for example, when people study, cognitive behavioral therapy, this concept is not new that I'm going to bring up. It's the thought loops, okay? So we have circumstances, right? They could be God-given circumstances or circumstances just from a situation created maybe in your own dynamic. And these circumstances lead to certain thoughts in our mind. Okay? And those thoughts lead to certain emotions, and those emotions lead to actions, and those actions lead to results. So what you really need to understand is, what is the thought coming from whatever circumstance you're in that's leading to the emotional eating? Okay? So the thought could be stress at work, stress in a relationship, boredom, causing anxiety, whatever it is. Because if you can change or neutralize that thought, odds are you can neutralize the emotion, right? And then that emotion will not lead to overeating. So example, say you're stressed out, right? You're stressed, I had a bad day at work, right? You could just say, I had, not my best day at work, right? Doesn't have to be, this was the worst day. That's kind of a neutralizing thought, okay? You could turn a positive into it, right? Going from negative to positive is sometimes very difficult though. Odds are we need to neutralize the thought first. But, one that would help is, say you're feeling maybe, the emotion of shame because you felt like the meal before didn't go as well as you wanted to. You may say something to yourself that's negative like, well, I did my walk today, but then I overate at lunch, right? I ate the pizza at the staff room. But instead, you want to neutralize that thought and say, okay, I had a great walk today and, right? So you saw what I did there? And, not but, and I had pizza at lunch, right? That's a neutral thought. It's just a neutral observance of the fact. It doesn't say but implies negative, right? So I want you to use the word and when you're describing things to yourself, all right? And so when you're doing these thought loops, try to do one every day where you take a loop, a thought that just really wasn't going great. Try to neutralize it to dictate your emotion. And then when you sit down and eat, focus on those hunger and satisfying cues. When you combine these two things of really managing your emotions and mindfully eating, it's very hard to emotionally overeat. The next thing I want you to do is look for stress relief methods. So these are alternative ways to manage stress, like exercise, meditation, talking to a friend. Yes, just getting for a walk, calling your girlfriend is the best thing you can do. I'm pretty sure two of my girlfriends, Emily and Sam, if you're listening, I love you guys. Anyways, after work or on the way to work, I'm usually talking to one of my girlfriends, particularly if it's a stressful day. And, just getting it out there is like the best thing you can do. All right. So engaging in activities that reduce the urge to use foods as a coping mechanism is key. Okay. So the next thing I want you to work on is self-sabotage and negative self-talk. So this is number 2, an unconscious way we mess ourselves up. So when you talk about self-sabotage and negative self-talk, these are the unconscious behaviors that significantly impact your ability to achieve your weight loss goals. And by the way, these are the same behaviors that affect any goal. So if you find in business or at home, you're not able to reach your goals, odds are you have a little bit of self-sabotage and negative self-talk in the mix. So I want you to focus on your weight loss just like you would at anything else. So many of my clients, they're amazing at what they do for a living. They're amazing parents, spouses, but when it comes to weight loss, they don't treat it the same way. Just a different focus for some reason when it comes to weight loss. So I do want you to focus on, self-sabotage, which basically stems from negative beliefs about oneself, okay? Because this undermines your efforts to reach your goals. So I want you to focus on cognitive restructuring, which is basically challenging and changing a negative thought pattern, like we talked about before, to a neutral one or positive one if you can go there. But at least neutralize the thought, okay? So notice the thought that's in your mind, okay? And then neutralize that thought. Okay. This way, you're replacing self-defeating thoughts with positive affirmations and realistic expectations. These cognitive behavioral techniques can help improve self-esteem and reduce self-sabotage. And so, again, like we talked about before, if you have, say, a negative thought about your body, right? Don't just jump to positive if you feel that's unrealistic. You have to believe the thought. So say your thought is, I'm unhappy with my weight on the scale, right? Just neutralize it and say, I stepped on the scale and it said X number. All right, that's one measurement. There's a lot of ways to measure my body, and it's not the end all be all, right? You don't have to say, I love my weight on the scale, right? That wouldn't feel realistic maybe for you. Now, if you can feel that way, great, go for it. But these are the kind of neutralizing techniques you want to do until you really start to believe them. Because once you change those thoughts, the emotions will change and the negative self-talk will stop. It just takes a lot of work and practice. The other thing I want you to consider is self-compassion practices. Basically, developing self-compassion by treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when you face setbacks. It's interesting when we talk to our children, right? And they've maybe had a bad day or they didn't do something as well, right? Say my son, he's playing soccer and he doesn't score the goal. He may want to cry immediately, right? And so I go up to him and say, you did amazing, are you kidding me? You're getting so much better. Like I see you every week, putting a lot of effort, and you should be extremely proud of yourself for working so hard. And it's interesting. I'll talk to my son that way, right? But it took me forever to talk to myself that way. So many of my clients, same thing. They're so compassionate with others and just not themselves, okay? But it's shown that self-compassion is linked to healthier behaviors, improved weight management. And you can look at studies of this. I'll link some in the show notes. But the reality is that think about the way you talk to someone else. If you speak negatively to a coworker, right, or a family member or friend, right, it's not going to help them and improve their self-esteem. It's probably going to get worse results. So why wouldn't the same be true for yourself, right? So focus on self-compassion. Give yourself some grace. So the last thought I want to discuss is inadequate sleep and recovery. So let's discuss the impact of sleep on weight loss. See, inadequate sleep can hinder your progress by affecting your metabolism, your appetite hormones, and your overall energy levels. We have a whole book on drug-free sleep. It's on Amazon, and we did it for this exact reason. I noticed with so many of my clients, all of them who were trying to lose weight and felt that they were already dieting and exercise, all did not sleep well. I asked them all, when is the last time you look at your phone? Right before bed. These sleep hygiene habits absolutely impact you. So the idea is that you want to establish a consistent sleep routine by creating a relaxing bedtime environment and avoiding stimulants like caffeine close to bedtime. And if you're drinking them in the afternoon, you may have to even cut it to 1 cup in the morning. And these practices by having, dark light, maybe a noise canceller, not having light or your phone in front of you the couple hours before bed, having a good temperature in your room. Yes, there's a perfect temperature for when you sleep, right? These practices enhance sleep quality and support weight management. And also, based off that, right? So, improving your sleep, which improves cortisol levels, I want you to focus on recovery. When you exercise or do something very strenuous, make sure you give your body adequate time to recover from the exercise. See, overtraining and insufficient recovery can impact your overall health and weight loss efforts. I almost want you to focus on yourself like a kid. My son, we came back from vacation the other day, and he literally fell asleep the minute we got home and slept all night. Kids are so good at this. They're good at giving themselves the rest they need. But adults, we feel this need to push, or that we're not getting, our bang for buck at night when we put the kids to sleep, if we want to stay up and watch that show. But I promise it doesn't serve you, especially when you're focused on weight loss. So what should you do to get started with these unconscious thoughts and bring them really to the forefront, that prefrontal cortex where you actually consciously think, okay? The first thing is to reflect on your own habits and identify areas you could be struggling. Create a plan to tackle the emotional eating. What I tell people is start with one thought loop a day. Pick one thought that isn't serving you, neutralize it, and see how your life changes. Really try 30 days of this, and it will change your entire life. We do this in my program where I expect everyone to do a thought loop a day, in addition to their other journaling exercises that I change throughout the program. But by doing this, you'd be so surprised on how much you change. I got this idea of using a thought loop a day from Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School, and I absolutely use it in my diabetes program because it really is that helpful, okay? So you really want to create a plan to attack the emotional eating by working on your thought loops. The next thing is addressing negative self-talk. Write down every day the negative self-talk you might have done, right? And neutralize that talk, or talk to yourself the same way you do to your toddler. I think that's the easiest way to do it, is really think, how would I talk to my son about this? Especially my son, he's so hard on himself already at 5, and I don't want him to, lack the confidence that he should have, right? He's amazing. So do the same with yourself, okay? Give yourself that grace. The next thing is improve your sleep. Maybe get guidance or get a book on sleep. We have one here, we'll link it below. Or if you know what you're doing wrong, stop self-sabotaging. If you know you're on your phone right before bed, stop. You don't need my book to tell you that. But if you do and you want maybe some other natural supplements to use in different things and really create a routine, I have a 7-step program, you can use that. Or seek help from a professional if you don't like reading books or listening to audiobooks. That will also help. Another thing, if you don't sleep, in the book, but they also have them, other places as well, we have nighttime meditations to help you sleep. And if nothing else works, even in our book, I added this because this helps me a lot. I have short, boring bedtime stories that will lull you to sleep. I use certain frequencies to help with sleep and the whole thing. And again, you don't have to do it from my book. You could get your own, thing. I'm sure on YouTube, they probably have a lot of this stuff as well. But those meditations with certain sound frequencies, certain short bedtime stories, definitely lull you to sleep if you feel your mind is racing and you can't slow it down, because anxiety is one of the biggest reasons people don't sleep. But whatever it is, create a plan. So attack the emotional eating. Now, to wrap up, I want you to recognize these unconscious factors like emotional eating, self-sabotage, and inadequate sleep, and recognize they actually make a difference. If you take nothing else from this podcast on the Vitality Prescription today, my script for you is be honest with yourself. If you're not losing weight, are you doing these 3 things? 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them? Comment below and let me know. And implement the strategies we discussed, because you can overcome these obstacles and move way closer to your goals way quicker. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.